Hello, gang. I hope you're all doing well today. Let's get that video going. Okay, yeah. Hi. Live long and prosper. I hope you all doing well today. Um, and why is it never shows what my lecture on the share screen options? Wait, still not showing it. Okay, let me go back and fix this. Okay, so as I said, I hope you're all doing well. Corduroy and I just had a fun playtime outside. Have to tire him out before class, before he gets into causes trouble. In the good old days when I used to come to Maha, he would come with me in the morning, have a little walk beforehand and walk over from the parking area, whatever. And he would be so excited at seeing all the people at UMass that he would be like this for the rest of the day. Now, Corduroy, you gonna say hello? Nope. My daughters say that he gets deflated. He lies and he gets so flat. Anyway, this is obviously not Corduroy. This guy is Violet, our 16-year-old beloved senior cat. And very blue eyes. Violet has survived so many things. She retained a fetus after giving birth, and a few weeks after, all of a sudden she was kind of lethargic. Daughter and younger daughter, who's into animal care, and wife took a temperature, rushed her. I think I rushed her to Deerfield, the emergency vet at like 11 o'clock at night. Stayed there until, I don't know, 5 in the morning. But she survived. And then when we got my wife's COVID comfort cat, Pippin, who you've seen pictures of before, Pippin brought a disease with him. We call him the bringer of the plague. We call him the 1492 cat, named after when the Europeans brought diseases to the Native Americans. So Pippin brought, a form of the herpes, cat herpes virus. It's just one that our cats weren't familiar with. So both of our cats got sick. Violet, who was 14 at the time, nearly died for 6 or 8 weeks. We had to syringe feed her. My wife and I spent hours feeding Violet, with a slurry of liver food, and then she got up to where she was able to eat off a spoon, and then so that was quite an adventure. What else? She's had other near misses, but she's survived all these, and she's still going. Her kidneys are failing, so we have to give her medication all the time. She has arthritis, but she's still insists on going outside and enjoying life. Sleeps a lot, but so do I. Of course, she didn't have COVID, so she maybe doesn't have that excuse. But anyway, Violet is doing okay. She does not, sometimes she'll walk down to go into the street or something if we have to run after her. No, you don't go in the street. But she's okay. Here are other animals, dogs in the snow. Will we ever have snow again in New England? God. Oh, okay. Class 13, production possibilities, frontiers, transactions, costs, information, and other problems with markets. Or sex. Which would you rather talk about? Okay, various readings, quizzes, discussions. Okay, problem set. Transactions costs. These are the costs of making exchanges, negotiating and policing exchanges. So you're all ready to buy a coffee mug. It's a UMass coffee mug, gift from a friend. You're ready to buy a coffee mug. But you have to settle on the price. You sit there and you think, hey, I would like this really cheap. The person selling it to you wants to sell it at a really high price. So you have to negotiate. You have to have a form of currency that you both accept, so that you can use that to buy the mug. Or maybe you'll give the person who sells you the mug something else like earphones, maybe whatever. Then once you do this exchange, the person you buy it from has to have some security that you're not going to just come and steal the money from them. And you need some security that they won't just steal the mug back. Good social institutions make all this work more easily. And that allows for the division of labor where you make earphones or music or whatever, and the other people make coffee mugs, and somebody else makes coffee. Yeah, this is division of labor. But it only works if we have social institutions that make it possible for us to exchange. And transactions costs get in the way. If you feel unsafe, that interferes with the exchange. If you don't have a currency, if you don't have a common language, if you don't have rules for these things. So good social institutions promote honesty, establish currency, protect property rights. That said, there are other problems with markets. Markets can discourage care work, which we'll be talking about much more. They ignore public goods and the commons. You don't pay for the carbon you pump into the atmosphere every time you turn the key of your car or turn up the heat. And markets miss the benefits of complementary production, which is where you have two goods that when you produce one, the other one becomes easier to produce. Maybe you get the other one as a side effect. Just to give you a quick brief on that one, apples and honey. Apple orchards are often next to, or sometimes will incorporate, fields of clover with bees, because the bees fertilize the apples, and the bees use the apple blossoms to make honey. So everybody gains. Okay. By the way, spell complement. This is one of the most commonly misused words. And my wife thinks I'm so pedantic and so silly about things like this. Okay. Do we have the right institutions to desire to supply? This is really fundamental. This is a central question. Does market capitalism, if we don't have the right institutions, then producers won't make the stuff that people want. And it doesn't matter how efficiently they make it if it's not what people want. On the other hand, if we do have those right institutions, then producers will make the stuff that people want and not make the stuff that people don't want. And they'll make it only if people want it enough to cover the cost. farmer's market works very well. If you show up with bad strawberries, nobody will buy them. It's hard to imagine strawberries that bad, but anyway, if you show up with stuff that maybe zucchinis, maybe people don't want zucchinis, there's zucchinis and tomatoes. You can make some nice ratatouille. Are those eggplants back there? Maybe. Okay, anyway, you could make a ratatouille, but maybe everybody's decided they don't want ratatouille anymore. So you show up with the eggplants and nobody buys them. And you scratch your head and say, what am I going to do with these eggplants? You compost them. Oh, God, that's a waste. So that tells you lost money on making those eggplants. A lot of labor went into it for no good purpose. You're not going to make the eggplants again. The farmer's market, the market mechanism is telling you not to make eggplants. On the other hand, if you go in there and you say, oh, tomatoes are selling like hotcakes and people are charging really high prices for tomatoes, you're going to go home and you're going to say, hey, I see this market institution here. It's telling me make more tomatoes. Capitalism can be wonderful when it works like this. Yeah, it looks like this slide at some point. I revised it March 1st, 2020, 2 weeks before we closed down for COVID. You know, back in January 2020 or early February, I sat next to a friend at a faculty meeting. He leaned over and he said, we're not going to come back from spring break. I said, what are you talking about? He said, there's a virus in Wuhan. It's spreading like crazy. They're going to be closing everything down. He was right. Okay, question. If markets are so great, why don't we use them more? It's true, because markets like farmers market and Amherst, beautiful, wonderful. You go there, people who make good stuff get rewarded for it. People get the clear incentive to make the good stuff, not to make the bad stuff. Okay. You can drive around Amherst, especially, in spring, summer, fall, and you'll see a stand. Actually, this is year round. You'll see people will have a cooler at the bottom of the driveway with a little sign saying eggs. And there'll be a box there. You're supposed to leave a couple dollars for a dozen eggs. Isn't that great? So people have chickens, they can make a little money on the side. It encourages them to keep chickens. We get these really, really fresh eggs. It's great. It's wonderful. What allows that to happen? I mean, why? Somebody can walk along, they could steal all the money, they can steal all the eggs. They can steal the cooler, for heaven's sakes. Say, well, somebody's watching it. Sometimes somebody's watching it. But if somebody has to stay there watching it, it's not worth it. They don't make enough money to pay for somebody to watch it or to value, they value their own time. So it only works because people are honest. Corn, you see zucchinis in August. You'll see corn just sitting out by the side of the road. There's a stand at the intersection of Pomeroy and South Maple Road in Amherst. That's actually in Hadley. And there's just a box. The box is on a chain. Oh, but come on, you can, you bring a screwdriver, you can pop it open, whatever. I haven't tried, so please don't. You could certainly load up on corn without paying for it. There are a lot of farm stands like that. One of my favorites is on Northeast Street, just before Henry Street in Amherst. And I really like that one because they take Venmo. Oh God, thank heavens for these, these things where I can just pay. I don't, because otherwise at these farm stands, if you don't have the right change, it can be really inconvenient. And who carries cash anyway? Okay. But all these things depend on honesty. And Venmo, what does Venmo do? Or credit cards. What do these things do? They make it easier to exchange value. I mean, it's easy for me to take the vegetables and the fruit and just load it into my car. But for me to pay becomes a hassle if I have to deal with cash. Yeah. Now, Venmo and electronic funds transfer also means that they don't have to worry as much about theft. Oh, they also take Google Pay, by the way. They don't have to worry as much about theft because there's no cash over there. I mean, they have a box for cash, for grandma who doesn't have a phone. Now, when you get down to it, well, it's great that we have these ways of exchanging vegetables, etc. In practice, most economic activity is not done through markets. All sorts of things happen that aren't done through markets. Within businesses, most activity is by command. Your boss doesn't, call a meeting and auction off the tasks of the day. Your boss tells you what to do. The players on the Yankees, meet at the pitcher's mound. The runners on second and third with one out. And there's a question, should they walk the next batter? Should they play the infield in or play back to try to cut off a big hit and limit the damage? How do they decide? Do they take bids? No. They're there and they wait for the catcher to make the decision, or the manager sends out an instruction, and then they go ahead. Command. Most of our economy within companies is through command. And much of economic activity, meaningful economic activity, has nothing to do with markets or businesses. Your mother tells you, clean up your room. We have company coming. Vacuum the kitchen. Do you say, let's see, that would be $10, Mom. Your mom asks you and your sister, tonight, would you like ratatouille, or would you like pesto, or would you like gado? What do you say? Do you say to your sister, I'll pay you $5 to go along with pesto? Does your sister say, I actually want pizza, I'll pay Mom $10 if we get pizza? No, you have a discussion, you make a decision. So much of our economic life is done that way. And there are people, mostly economists, who would say that's a mistake. We should do more through the market. Think about it. I mean, there are many activities that are done partly through the market and partly not. For example, you meet somebody at a bar at night, assuming you are of age and whatever. And you have a drink and you sit there chatting and maybe you dance a little bit and you're having a great time, whatever. And then you say to her, you want to go up to my place. She says, that'll be $250 for the first hour and $100 an hour after that. Do you expect that? Well, there are situations where that would happen. Prostitution was a major industry in 18th century Venice. In a study of Nantes, France, The first time I went to Social Science History Association meetings was in Boston in, I guess it was 1979. And Michael Dukakis, maybe 1980, and Michael Dukakis, former governor, had been defeated for re-election. He would run for election in 1982. Won, was re-elected 86, Democratic nominee for president in 88. And on my short list of the best presidents we never had, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, he spoke at this. And he went, he went through some of the items on the program, and he said, prostitution is not. Well, that seems like something we really should have learned more about before we had discussions of the combat zone in Boston. Anyway, these are activities that are sometimes done through the market and sometimes not. Daycare. Taking the trash out. In some families, children do these for free. In some families, they're done sometimes for free. A lot of households, well, I don't know, us and at least some friends, we have a policy that we don't pay children. My kids are all grown. This is not an issue. But when they were younger, we had a policy, we do not pay children to do things in the house. But if they're doing something out of the house, we pay them. So we would pay them to weed the garden, but we would not pay them to vacuum their rooms or make their beds or run their laundry. So in effect, we're doing some things through the market. After all, if they think the rate of pay for the garden weeding is too low, they would not do it. And we would accept that. Or we would offer a higher rate of pay. So if the work is too onerous for what we're paying, they would turn it down. And that's efficient, that's better. But if vacuuming their room is really onerous and unpleasant, they still have to do it. And that could be inefficient. It could be that the benefit to us of having the room vacuumed is less than the pain to them. But we would still insist on it being done. There are market activities. There are activities where the market can produce a more efficient outcome. So why don't we always use the market? Why don't you, if some, person says, no, I don't want to go up to your room tonight. Why don't you just start bidding? Why don't you, why doesn't your mother auction off what she'll be making for dinner that night? Wouldn't that be more efficient? Yeah, we don't do that. We, just like businesses use command, families and friends don't use money. Yeah, I mean, after all, to take the extreme, Gary Becker type world, it really becomes, why do we bother having families? Why do we have friends? And it's not just that. The US government and every government in the world, maybe every government in history, has rewarded people with medals and honors and honorifics, rather than money. Oh, sometimes there'll be money. I shouldn't say rather than, because sometimes there'll be money involved. Sometimes kings would reward a favorite or somebody who did some great deed with a title and an estate, maybe a position like control of customs for the city of London or something. So there sometimes would be money involved, but often it's just honors. Maybe some sibling of yours or parents, grandparents won a Silver Star in the US military, Congressional Medal of Honor. These are serious honors, and people are entitled to great respect for them. I think Congressional Medal of Honor comes with certain perks, like you get to be at the front row during parades. I don't know. I mean, I should Google that because now that I've said it, I'm kind of interested. I believe I heard something like that. But in any case, somebody is entitled to great respect, but not money. I could be wrong, but I don't think any money comes with it. The Nobel Prize, there's money, but it's not just for the money, by no means. One of my teachers in college, Leon Letterman, won the Nobel Prize for physics. He was a great teacher. It was ridiculous what a good teacher he was. He taught this large lecture class in poets physics. There was a science requirement, so I took poets physics, and I heard that Letterman was really good. He made it so interesting, and he spent time with people. I mean, there were 100 people in the class. He obviously didn't put on names, and obviously had very limited office hours, but he did make a point of, he assigned papers and he commented on the papers. Anyway, he won the Nobel Prize. And then he developed dementia. And, we don't have long-term care as part of Social Security or anything. His family couldn't take care of him. They had to put him in a home. And they couldn't afford it. They spent down all his money. So they auctioned off his Nobel Prize. His medal was worth, they got $1 million for it or something like that. Why would somebody pay that much money for a Nobel Prize? I mean, it's one thing if you have a lot of money and you want to help Leon Letterman, but then just give him the money. What are you going to do with somebody else's Nobel Prize? Really? It's like sleazy. Okay. Anyway, we have a non-market system because markets can be expensive. Markets can promote bad behavior. Let's talk about those. How do you compensate your parents for making dinner for you? For giving you dinner. Transactions costs of conducting exchanges, waiting in line, negotiating, arriving at what people actually want to pay, are willing to pay, and how much the minimum that they'll accept. Waiting in line, transferring ownership, guarding the stuff you own. We have a lot of people in our economy. Some people have argued over half of our economy, people involved in transactions costs. 3 million cashiers. Actually, this is a little bit, just a couple of years ago, 1.5 million bookkeepers, 1 million lawyers. I don't know how many work for Donald Trump. 1 million security guards. Oh, well. What do they actually add to our national income? Are we any happier because there's a security guard? Are we any happier because there's a cashier? Any better off because we have a lawyer? Well, we are better off because we're able to have a market economy, which we couldn't have without policing transactions. So you could call these people producer of intermediate good, but it's not something that makes us any better off. Oh, filling out forms. How about next time round, you just tell the government, this is how much money we have, and this is how much money we can spend on college, and would you please give us the rest? Probably won't work. Oh, God, this is for physical therapy a couple years ago. You can see up there, for some reason, I had David Cotz's course evaluation folder. I think this is when I was department chair, and this is my desk. There we are, filling out my forms for my physical therapy, in which I had to write my name, sign my name, 1, 2, down at the bottom there, 3, 4, I think just 4 times. Okay. this is my estimate, that according to the American Labor Force Guard stuff, other people have higher estimates, but whatever it is, it's a lot. Now, good social policy does lower these transaction scores. If people are honest, we don't have to spend as much effort policing them. We don't need as many guards. We don't need as many people to go through your financial forms and check them and make sure you're not lying. Literacy. If everybody's literate, we can do a lot of this stuff, text, into, email, whatever. We can send you forms, you can read them and decide what you want to do. Good infrastructure. Better mass transit, better, faster internet. All these make it easier to engage in transactions. Honest judiciary and honest police. And then a sense of legitimacy. So we trust that the systems are fair, and then we don't have to be policing each other all the time. On the other hand, if we feel that everybody's selfish, then there's going to be bad behavior. Look at these guys. That's probably a taser, I guess. I don't think they're carrying guns. I wonder if that changes, because this past weekend, somebody showed up at the Mall of America with a gun and started shooting people. What the fuck? Okay, I'm not going to say anything more about that. Honest communities manage with fewer security needs, fewer accountants, fewer lawyers. Transactions costs are lower, not as much as wasted. Policing transactions, and you can do more transactions if you can trust people. You can generally trust people in the town of Amherst, so you can leave your eggs at the bottom of the driveway with a box for money. And that makes it easier to do things. We should all be more honest. We have a lot of lawyers in this country, more than in other countries. For some reason, that's kind of interesting. Some Anglo-Saxon countries, the UK, the US, Australia, have lots of lawyers. Canada, however, has very few lawyers. I don't know. And France has more lawyers than Canada. So it's not just being francophone. Canadians really have very few lawyers. And the Japanese have the fewest of all. They average less than one gunshot death, murder per year in the country of Japan, with over 100 million people. We're very litigious. We pay a lot. We have a lot of suits, many more than. Notice that while the Japanese have very few lawyers, they have a fair number of lawsuits, more than Canada or Australia. Australia has a ton of lawyers, but they don't have very many lawsuits. I don't know. This is some, I have every reason to think that the person who wrote this article did their homework. But I don't know. I don't have an explanation. And the article didn't really get into explanations. It mostly focused on transactions costs and lawyers, and talked about the United States. Also, when they say England, I wonder, because up here they said the United Kingdom. For those of you who do not want to be complete idiots, England is not the United Kingdom. I don't know about these Harvard professors, though, because they did switch from one to the other. So I don't know. Okay. But anyway, we pay more for auto insurance than anybody else except Canada. So it's not lawyers, because Canada has few lawyers but expensive auto insurance. And it's not mortality on the roads. Canadians and Australians and people in the United Kingdom are very safe drivers. as are Americans. The French and the Japanese are less safe drivers. Transactions costs make sad, and they should make you sad. How do businesses know what you want? This is a fundamental problem. And when I was talking about the farmers market in Amherst, I was basically alluding to this, that the farmers market, people at the farmers market can figure what you want by looking at what's selling and what's selling at a high price. And they figure, oh, that's what people want. And the next week they'll come back with that. Flowers are selling really well. I'm going to cut some flowers next week and bring them to the market. Markets can be good for that if you can actually, see, but it's not always so simple. Let's say you notice people aren't buying your stuff at the farmer's market or at a restaurant, whatever. People have exercised exit. They're not buying your stuff. Now, maybe you would want to fix what you're doing. Maybe you decide that, oh, my prices are too high, so you have lower prices. Well, maybe that's not the problem. Maybe the problem is the quality's not good. Maybe the problem is that nobody likes the shirt you're wearing because nobody wants to see in the town of Amherst, nobody wants to see you wearing that shirt with that politician. You'll guess which one. Maybe you're wearing one of those red hats and everybody hates you for it. Maybe not. In some other town, some other towns near here, the red hat would really work. So you show up at that other town wearing, a Greenpeace shirt and a Biden-Harris hat, and nobody will shop with you. And now, do you know that it's because of your politics? Is it because your vegetables look bad? Is it because your prices are too high? And if it's the prices, we used to go to this, when we lived in Cambridge, we'd go to this Chinese restaurant in Inman Square. And it was pretty good. They basically had two sauces. So as long as you didn't go with too many people and get too many different dishes with them all tasting the same, then you were okay. Anyway, we noticed that it wasn't doing well. I guess other people figured out about the two sauces. And then we noticed the portions started getting smaller and smaller. They were losing money. So they thought, well, we'll make the portion small. That's not the problem. And their solution made everything worse. They were holding the line on prices, but at the price of quantity. They really should have fixed the quality. But the staff was pleasant enough. Sometimes people will exercise voice. How many of you write complaints when you're unhappy? How many write reviews? When you get something from Amazon or some other place, how many write reviews? How many write reviews in, in one of those other websites, reviewing sites? I don't. My wife does. And she says people should know. And she reads the reviews. She's taught me, I look at the reviews before I buy something that, certainly if it's going to be some joint product that we're both going to be involved with, I look at reviews. I've learned because I've made some bad purchases. And she said, did you look at the reviews? And I'm like, no, I didn't. So I look at the reviews. But I'm still not going to do a review myself. That's too much trouble. I'm too selfish. It's because I'm an economist. Economists are more selfish than other people. And taking economics courses makes you more selfish. That is, people who take intro economics and major in economics become more selfish. People who take intro economics and don't take any other economics courses are somewhat more selfish. People who don't take any economics courses at all are the least selfish. And they all start out the same way. This is a study done at That small college in central Vermont, Middlebury. Okay, anyway, voice. And if you do write reviews, if you do write comments to the producer, should they take them seriously? They know that most people don't. So what is it about these weirdos who actually do? Should we trust them? Now, the standard model assumes exit will discipline producers, which is the way I was describing it at the farmers market. The standard neoclassical Orthodox model assumes that when you don't buy things, producers see that they're not selling, and they figure they've got to make their product better, they've got to fix things, they've got to lower the prices, etc. On the other hand, if everybody exits, how are you going to get them back? You know, if like, oh, can't sell anything today, that may mean you may just not go to that market again. You may not be able to afford to go to the market when you composted all your vegetables and flowers. You may go back, but you may not realize that it's because of your red hat, not because of the quality of your stuff. On the other hand, if there's too much loyalty where people continue to shop even though you have a red hat, then you won't know to change. In that case, you shouldn't change. That's your politics. Go ahead. You know, but if it's the quality of vegetables, then that's another problem. Okay, markets discourage non-market work. This is a real problem. If you are getting paid to do some things, are you going to do the things you're not paid for? Historically, we made sure that women did not earn any money. Mothers could not have jobs. And that way they had to stay home and take care of the kids. Nowadays, mothers can do all sorts of things. So anytime they stay home and take care of the kids, they're losing money. The opportunity cost of taking care of kids has gone up. That's part of why advanced capitalist economies generally have low fertility. Now, you could say legitimately and totally appropriately, well, dad should stay home and take care of the kids. It shouldn't just be on mom. Of course not. They're his kids. But dad makes money too. So there's the opportunity cost there. However you slice it, market work discourages non-market work. These people here, they're building a house for humanity thing, Habitat for Humanity. Well, what's wrong with this picture? They're not being paid. Why are they doing it if they're not being paid? They are losing money by doing this. It's nice of them that they are. Actually, I think they may be building a playground. I forget where I got the picture, but either way, they're doing non-market work, volunteer work, when they could be making money. And volunteerism has been a real issue in America because so many people make money in the market. As we marketize more and more of the economy, people don't want to do it for free. Incentives to do one thing are a disincentive to do other things. We rely on markets. Who's going to care for children? The elderly. Who's going to take care of the environment? Every time I carry our compost out to the composter and stir the compost, I could be making money. Well, not really, but okay. Yeah, we spend a lot of time taking care of cats. And the dog beast. Oh, where'd he go? Oh, he's over there. Okay. He's guarding the door to make sure I don't leave without him. Transactions cost carrying life change everything. They create a gap between supply and demand. You may want something this much. They may be willing to give it to you for that much. But if you can't manage the transaction, you're not going to do it. Yeah, and the better our social institutions, the easier it is to exchange money, the more we can trust each other. the easier it is to do it. The clearer we are about what we want and what they want, the easier it is to do these transactions. And that's why we do things in the family. We trust our family, we trust our friends. Now, the Orthodox model, we're getting towards the summation of the Orthodox model. And here we've got something that is really, really, really important, which is why they're in bold-faced red. And I'm going to give you a trick. Anytime you're in an economics class, they're usually really, really boring, because they're always saying the same bloody stuff and it's bullshit. But that notwithstanding, you'll be dozing off and your professor will turn to you and say, what do you think the answer is? And you're like, oh, God, you don't even know what the question is. But it doesn't matter. You don't have to know the question because you know the answer. You always know the answer in an Orthodox economics class, and it's either preferences, factor endowments, or technology. Those three things determine everything. Preferences, demand. Factor endowments, part of supply. The cost, factor endowments determine the cost of the inputs. And technology determines how many inputs you need to get the product. So factor endowments plus technology is the supply curve. Preferences is the demand curve. So lean back in your chair, look like you know what you're talking about. Faking it is almost as good as making it. And think for a second, restrain your panic, and say to your professor, well, I thought preferences when I was starting, but now I'm thinking maybe, and at that point, your professor is going to stop you and just go on and think about what a brilliant student you are, because you are brilliant. You remembered the cheat. By discounting institutions, classical economists explain everything with these three. Institutions don't matter. I mean, you will go to your Orthodox economics textbook, the one you use in high school, the one you would use in Amherst College. And they don't talk about institutions. They don't talk about police, the judiciary, language. No, because they're assuming no transactions course. And that's why you get somebody like Gary Beck, who basically doesn't understand why we have families instead of just doing it all through the market. And then he has a theory of the family that is basically applying market analysis to families. Preferences, factor endowments, technology. Now, there are other issues, and we should bring these up now. Joint production. We've talked about production possibility frontiers. They are the maximum output you're going to get from one product when you're making the other. You probably saw them in high school. Here's a production possibility frontier for an Afghan farmer. They could grow poppies or they could grow roses. The reason I bring up poppies and roses is because there was a time when we were in Afghanistan where we were trying to get farmers there to stop growing poppies. Why? What do poppies go into? Heroin. Same thing happened in Vietnam. Our soldiers came back with as heroin addicts. Heroin was competition for OxyContin, manufactured by Purdue Pharmaceuticals. So Purdue was probably leaning on the US government to restrain poppy production in Afghanistan, whatever. And so we told the farmers, hey, grow roses instead. And we tried to create a market for roses. Ecuador and other rose suppliers probably weren't very happy about this because they were already selling roses in the US market. But anyway, you could have a certain number of rose poppies if you didn't grow any roses. You could have a certain number of roses if you didn't grow any poppies. in between, you could grow some poppies by giving up land that would otherwise go to roses. Give up land, give up water, give up labor, give up more, fewer roses, more poppies, more poppies. Out here, with more poppies and more roses, can't do it. You don't have enough land. Within here, you're like, oh, nobody would stop there. Nobody? Really? Really? You think that? People are inefficient all the time. Businesses are inefficient all the time. Sometimes we call that inefficiency lack of good technology, because over time, as you get better technologies, you can grow more of everything. So, why should we be surprised if they're actually inefficient? But the Orthodox model assumes everybody's at this line. So what is the price of roses? The poppies you give up. Up here, you have all poppies, no roses. The first rose, well, you have to give up those poppies. Second rose, you have to give up those poppies. As it is, I have a straight line, so you're giving up the same number of poppies for every rose. Or, what's the price of poppies? The roses you're giving up, which is just the inverse of the poppies you give up to get roses. So the price of poppies are the roses you give up, the price of roses are the poppies you give up. This is a theory of price. Isn't this great? We, in a two-product world, here we have a theory of price. I mean, economics can be so much fun. Okay, we know that that's not going to happen. But okay, moving along the line, the price of poppies are the roses you don't produce. The opportunity cost of roses are the poppies you don't produce. Okay. But, and you can apply this. And while I don't think Gary Becker ever did, I read his book a long time ago, Book on the Family, a long time ago when it came out. Look, I'm dumping on Becker, but he was brilliant. He made major contributions. He actually deserves the Nobel Prize that he won, unlike a lot of economists who won the prize, but it was like, that guy can't be. He's one who actually did deserve it, even though I disagree with him all the time. But maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think that if he talked about sex and sleep, he would have a downward sloping production possibility frontier. You could get happiness with sex, or you could get happiness with sleep. And the more time you spend having sex, the less time you spend sleeping. You could have lots of sex, lots of sleep. One or the other. You can't do lots of both because you don't have enough time. And this would be inefficiency. Why would you be there? Yeah. Well, crucial assumptions slip in here. I mean, really. Yeah. Assuming they're substitutes, not complements, which we'll get to in a second. And assuming that you're always on the frontier. Is that always the case? Are you always on the frontier? Excuse me a second. Okay. Mosquito bites. Substitutes and complements. Rye and wheat, poppies and roses, these are substitutes. You use the land for one or you use the land for the other. Get more productive as you get better at it. Move out, maybe get better at one, not the other. That's going to change the relative price of rye and wheat. Wheat becomes cheaper. The price of rye goes up. You have to give up more wheat to get the rye. Bad weather slips in. Okay, this is all straightforward and you can work this out yourself. But think about complements with an E. Remember? Honestly, if I could, I would fail anybody who misspells complement. But fortunately, I don't do the grading. So you're okay. I don't think the TAs are gonna act that way. They're nicer than me. The bees that fertilize your apples also make honey. So what happens when you have more apples, more apple trees? More blossoms for the bees, more honey. Oh my, what's happened to our theory of price? Oh, it's all gone away because the more apples you have, the more honey. So honey has a negative price. Apples have a negative price in terms of honey. Sex and sleep can be complements too. Communication can make both better. You know, good sex can help you sleep well. Good sleep, you're well rested to have good sex. You know, you're tired, you just get crabby, the sex isn't so good, you're in a hurry, you don't pay attention, blah, blah, blah. Good communication makes sex and sleep better. And we're happier when we talk honestly. I haven't looked at that picture. That's kind of interesting. Okay. Production possibility frontiers can slope up. Complementary products. Move towards the efficient line. Practice helps you move onto the line. And of course, the PPF moves. Okay. Are we always on the frontier? No. But I do hope that you don't waste a lot of time arguing. And I hope that you have good sex and good sleep. And don't use heroin. Don't use OxyContin inappropriately. Use it when you need it. I've had a couple of pain meds prescriptions. I took it appropriately for my pain. And in both cases, I kind of forgot about the prescription. I found it later. It's like, oh, I stopped taking it. It all worked very well for me. But be careful and okay. Markets don't guarantee efficiency, transactions cost, discourage caring labor, Production possibilities, frontiers may slope up. And besides, may be completely irrelevant because people are often inside the frontier. Okay, there we go. Another fun day of economics. What can I say? I think talking about economics is like the best thing in the world. I'm not going to compare it to sex and sleep, you know, or non-prescription drugs. Some football player says they had the best season of his life because he used some hallucinogenic. No comment. Let's see. There's the, oh my God, that useless dog. Corduroy, come on, sit up, say hello. No. Over there's a stuffed poodle. There's a poodle that I have. I have a collection of little poodles next to my computer. And here's another one. I'm very fond of poodles, in case you didn't get it before. Okay, enough wasting your time about poodles, but okay. Have a good day, live long and prosper, be well.